Welcome to Real Leadership, the podcast that spotlights leaders who make, move, and process things in the real economy. Together we go to the heart of leadership to discover the strategies and hard-earned lessons from pragmatic, gutsy leaders who operate in a world that is more steak than it is sizzle. I'm your host, Jim Weaver, Chief Executive Officer of the Own Group, where we believe that real leadership matters. Let's go. Understanding your labor market is crucial for successful recruitment. Own Staffing's Recruiting Strategy Guide provides insights specific to your geographic location and the positions you're hiring for. Our Recruitment Strategy Guide delivers a clear snapshot of your labor market and actionable intel to tackle market-specific challenges. With Onan's expertise, we help you navigate and win in your competitive landscape. Empower your recruiting process with the insights you need. Learn more about Onan's Recruitment Strategy Guide at onanstaffing.com/strategy. Today, Real Leadership brings you Steve Ammons. Steve's a unique guest. While he's a business owner, he's a true Rotarian who spent much of his career creating the economic conditions where businesses can thrive. Currently as the President and Chief Executive Officer of the Birmingham Business Alliance in Alabama, that's the primary economic development agency for the greater Birmingham region. He's also a longtime business owner and the president of Background EQ, an employment screening service he started in 1997. Prior to the Business Alliance, from 2018 through 2023, Steve served as a Jefferson County Commissioner for District 5, where he chaired the Economic Development Committee and the Information Technology Committee. And notably, he was instrumental in recruiting JM Smucker Company, Smuckers, to the greater Birmingham region. Steve is a veteran of the U.S. Navy. He graduated from the University of Alabama at Birmingham with a degree in political science and government. Welcome, Steve.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well, let's jump in. I want to hear about Birmingham Business Alliance, or let folks know about that. So what is the charter of this alliance that you lead?
Well, our tagline is that we're the place where businesses we're here to help businesses start, stay, and succeed. And so we're a regional economic development organization as well as a chamber of commerce. So we're a 501c6, so we're a true chamber of commerce, but we have a heavy emphasis in economic development and project management.
Okay. And you took over about a year ago, is that right?
Matter of fact, this Sunday, June 1st, will be my 1-year anniversary.
Okay. Well, this is a good time to get you on. So what'd you walk into? And then after you kind of set that up, tell us about your vision for the next 5 years. Well,
I think you mentioned in the opening, I am a recovering politician. And so after leaving the commission, and while I was on the commission, I was a member of the board and the executive committee for BBA. Okay. And when they asked me if I would ever consider this, we went through the big, long process. But there had been some inconsistencies. If you count the interims over the last 6 years, I'm the 5th CEO in 6 years. Now I have to start saying the 5th CEO in 7 years. That's still not a good track record. And so I walked into something that there was a lot of inconsistency. There were a lot of different visions cast, and none of them actually followed through. And so I inherited a team that had probably been through a little trauma in not having that consistency. And over the last year, we've been working on that, working deeply on culture and refining what we are, kind of getting back to the basics.
So what is that vision for, let's say, for whatever time frame you want to say, but maybe 5 years? Where are you headed there? And where's Birmingham headed from an economic development standpoint?
Well, we always work with the state very closely. With the new Secretary of Commerce, Ellen McNair, we are working with them on their strategic plan that has not been done in quite a few years. Since Greg Canfield had been there and got started, which I think was 2011. So they're starting on their next strategic plan. We're going to be a part of that process and developing it, helping develop it for our region. And then I think we'll refine what the state comes up with and how are we better supporting the state for the long term. So right now it's how can we work our projects? How can we advocate for our business community in public policy, but work the projects and still be the marketing arm for letting people know what the Birmingham region is about and what opportunities there are here.
What do you see when you think about economic development in the U.S. more broadly than just here? We'll zoom in here too, but what do you think the major challenges are that we face here in the U.S. in terms of creating a thriving business environment that has a high impact on our communities?
Number one, regulation. The regulations that are put on, federal level, those can be a hindrance in many instances. And then something that everybody's dealing with that you guys know very well is workforce. How do we have an available workforce? And it's not only we talk about workforce participation rates, where pre-pandemic we may have been at 63% of our workforce is participating, and those that are available to work. And since the pandemic, we're still at 61, so we're not back to that level. But how are we getting people back to work? How are we getting them trained or upskilled? And that's not just an issue that we deal with here locally, but it's nationally. And I talk with a number of chamber CEOs throughout the major metro chamber CEOs that they're dealing with the exact same issues.
Yeah, let's chase that workforce development rabbit a little bit. I think Alabama is it lowest workforce participation rate or second lowest? I mean, it's down. It's low, right? In the scheme of things.
For the state of Alabama, it is. I think it's like at 57%, next to Mississippi or but I'm not sure. But we are one of the lowest. For our region, we're a little bit higher, but still well behind a national average.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was excited. We're actually working on one of our founders. It's a project, Hugh Thomas, that is near to his heart, workforce development. I know we're partnering with you. You're on a committee together to get high school kids ready for the next phase and also adult ready to work programs where we're taking folks that are on the sideline and trying to help them get in a position where they can get to work. And it's difficult work. The success we've had in high schools has been awesome. Where do you? What else do we have going in the state from a workforce development standpoint that you're excited about?
So AIDT, which is our state workforce, it is what I think I'm most excited about. The work that they've done. I always refer to them as we're talking about whether it's an expansion opportunity here or we're trying to attract a new project. They end up being our best incentive that we can offer, because since the issue is workforce, they will go through and figure out where available workforce is, if they need to upskill to a specific, like if it's advanced manufacturing. And there's this one machine that you have to have, and the only place that you can go get it or train for it is in Germany. Well, they will go buy the piece of equipment. If you have trainers, they will send them to Germany to get trained to come back to train everybody else. And so they'll go to that expense, and then they'll do a job placement program where they will help go find the folks to work in that factory. And that's where it becomes one of our best incentives, because the workforce is at the core of, well, you mentioned Smuckers. We beat Smuckers out over Dallas with a huge metro.
Wow.
We probably have a lot of good folks, but it's because of the availability of a workforce here, is one of the reasons why we bought them out. Other incentives, certainly help, but that's always the biggest issue that we're dealing with.
Workforce participation rates are at an all-time low in the U.S. This is a tragic waste of our nation's most valuable resource, its people. On top of this, we are seeing high school seniors across numerous high schools collect their diplomas and essentially walk off the graduation stage into unemployment. This divide is growing. To bridge this gap, Onan is working with high schools, business alliances, and employer champions to scale Ready to Work. Ready to Work, powered by Onan, builds career pathways for high school seniors looking to enter the workforce after graduation. So, if you're an employer or community partner looking to shape the future labor pool, this is your opportunity. Learn how you can join this effort by visiting readytowork.org.
Walk us through what it takes to land a major employer like that, like Smucker's, in a market as a workforce development unit. What does that process look like? I don't think most people understand.
Patience, number one. But we send folks out and they'll go meet with site selectors. They'll go to Select USA. They'll go to these different conferences where the site selectors are, developers are, to better sell our region and what the availability is. But we also work with the State Department of Commerce, and if they have somebody come to them, then they'll help distribute an RFI so we can respond to the RFI. If we're high on the list, we'll based on that RFI, they will respond with, hey, okay, well, which sites are you selecting, and how can we get them in front of them? They take a look at it, but the adage is in economic development is you never know you're a part of a project until you actually get the RFI, because most of the time you're stricken out because of the data and the information that they're finding online or available databases on properties. So we'll go from there. We'll go through a phase where we'll do interviews. We'll better understand what their job needs are, their capital investment, to know if it's a good fit for us. Because sometimes we'll turn it down, saying, "Hey, that's not really a good fit." Like Smucker's, for instance, from start to finish was almost 2 years. So you have to be willing to play the long game, and just because one project may fail, it better prepares you for the next one if you know where you didn't do well. So we go through the incentive process, help them work through it with their attorneys or attorneys that they will pick locally, help them work through the processes with the city, county, state. Making sure that there's a return not only for that company, but also for our municipalities. We don't want to see them, get upside down and never see a return on investment because they've given too much in incentives.
Yeah. Are there cities, when you think about what you want to do with Birmingham Business Alliance, are there cities or states that you look at and you think, man, they really shine in this area? And what are the attributes of a really strong chamber of commerce or economic development, body?
Well, that's a good question. We're in the process right now of looking at Raleigh, North Carolina, Raleigh-Durham area. We're taking a trip up there and taking 100 of our C-suite folks up there to do an immersion in what they're doing well. You got Research Triangle Park up there. Well, how did that come about, and how did that happen? And look at all the universities, that are close, and you're providing workforce and educated workforce. In the past, they were in the old Birmingham Chamber. They called those big trips, and it was always an immersion. In Birmingham, we have Regions Field where the Barons play because Robert Simon went on a trip to Pittsburgh and saw a downtown park and, wow, that's a great amenity. That's a great quality of life, quality of place asset.
Yeah.
It would be great here. Because of that trip, that's what we have. So we brought that back this year. It hasn't been done since 2008, 2009.
Yeah.
We're bringing that back because there is great innovation and great things going on, but how can we make that even more top of mind? How are we developing developing the relationships? Because the people going on this trip will better coordinate and better get to know each other. How can they work together and maybe accomplish something like, we don't need another baseball park, but other things that we can do, especially when we're focusing still on manufacturing, but bio and life sciences as well.
Mm-hmm. It's funny you say that about the football field down there. I was just down there. My daughter had a dance recital at the Alice Stevens Center, and I was down there under the highway, which 5 years ago that was not a good place to be. Right. And they turn it into a park, and it's lit, and it's beautiful down there. It really is a nice, a wonderful upgrade, and I would imagine very attractive, much more attractive than what it was for sure.
Oh, it was dangerous back then.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're hoping that one's called City Walk, and the whole amenity down there, creating more quality of place, creating more gathering opportunities. Even the kids that we've talked to in the neighborhoods up in Norwood talk about wanting to come down, and they know it's a safe place down there, and they could rent the scooters, and they can ride up and down there and not worry, and then just go have fun.
Yeah. That's beautiful. You described yourself earlier as a recovering elected official. I know there's more of a story there. So what led you into politics, and what were some of the tough lessons that you took out of your years in elected office?
Well, I started off in city council, and my dad always wanted me to be in elected office. That kind of goes back to my dad being a part of that greatest generation, where public officials back then were revered, and he tried his hand at politics and came close, but and so I always told him no, not only no but hell no. And being a Rotarian, I started in Rotary, and the motto for Rotary is service above self, and so I started taking that to heart. And how could I serve? In Scouts and all these other things that I was a leader in. And I was like, well, maybe I'll give that a try. Had no idea what I was getting myself into. Not a clue. And about 2 years in, I understood what I was doing. And it's an education. It is a complete education. And so got more engaged, became mayor pro tem, pro tem of the council. Then I became the council president for a period of time, and then the mayor pro tem. And when I left office, I was like, this was a good experience, but I'm tired. And then I found myself in a place where I was asked to consider running for county commission, because the county commissioner that was in seat was stepping down. Well, I just happened to be on the city council with David Carrington, who was that commissioner that was leaving. So did a lot of prayer about it and found myself running for commission, and working heavily in economic development, which is what I wanted to do, which really put me in a place to do what I'm doing now with BBA. There are lots of lessons learned in the process, for sure, though.
Yeah. Why did you get out?
Well, council. It was time. It was interesting. When I was asked to consider BBA, I knew I just won re-election. I had 4 more years ahead of me and didn't have any worries. But I'm a faithful person. I'm a religious person, and so I go into prayer And so I did my 21 days of prayer a little bit early, and felt God was leading me down this path. And I always in my prayers I always say, don't let it be my will. I want it to be your will. And I felt that's where it was going. I'd spent a lot of time working in economic development, and really felt this is where I was being led to be, knowing that there had been inconsistencies. Economic development is something that I've done from my time on the city council through the commission, and doing a lot of projects on the commission. I felt it was a good fit, and it's my heart was in BBA. The Birmingham Business Alliance in the 7-county region is needed. We need somebody to specifically speak for our business community. We need somebody to speak from not only attracting projects and advocating for our businesses, but on a public policy level. And then giving our businesses an opportunity to network and better know who they can network with, and how business can be done better to hopefully help folks scale up. So I see the value, and I knew it could be done. And with all busy people, if you know it's going to be done and it's going to be done right, then you have to do it. So I went ahead and agreed to come on over.
What are some of the public policy issues that you're wrestling with right now that you could share? Like, what are some things that are kind of being considered, being thought about, being fought for right now?
Well, public policy deals not only with just not only what goes on in Montgomery in the state legislature or federal government. I think when we finished this past session, child care tax credits, redoing the new market tax credit lines. Those were areas where we were able to help. Some of the other areas where, as we're advocating for economic development, what made this state great, and how we were able to attract more manufacturing, keeping the policies and the opportunities open, and them not going down the wrong path. The grand scheme of things, we want to attract manufacturing at a high level. And we don't want to do it to where it's kind of the race to the bottom where we're willing to do whatever. We want them to have good cultures. We want their employees to be happy to work there, and that will, grow and grow more opportunities, because available workforce, happy workforce, well paid, above average pay workforce, and all of those things in the grand scheme of things will help us continue to grow. And whether or not they need a third party to help facilitate that or not, I guess that question is to be answered. But what made this state what it is in manufacturing has built an economy that we're very, very proud of, and we hope to continue that.
Struggling with high turnover and burnout? Own & Flex addresses these challenges head-on, offering a scalable solution with vetted part-time talent to fill staffing gaps. Own & Flex combats worker shortages and ensures your core team isn't overburdened, reducing turnover and enhancing job satisfaction. Empower your workforce and boost your success with Own & Flex. Visit ownandflex.com to learn more.
So given your experience in business, serving on city council, being a county commissioner before your role at BBA, you must have gained a lot of knowledge along the way. Is there a particular lesson or experience that stands out to you, or has it been kind of more of a cumulative effect over time?
You have the one-offs. You have the experiences that change you. But I think it's over a period of time, whether it's something as small as fighting for a location for our city hall, where I was the rogue council member that didn't go along with everybody else, and I ended up being right. So sticking to my guns and and learning a lesson from that if you know you're right and the data backs you up, stick to it. Don't give up if you know you're right. But it's developing not only those relationships but those experiences that shape who you are and how you lead. And every experience that I've had has been to where there's always somebody I learn from, whether it's the guy downstairs here that says good morning and gives me a salute every morning just to say hi. Learning about him, and there may be a pearl of wisdom that I pick up from him, or even the 22-year-old that we just hired coming out of college. You always have somebody to learn from, and I've had the great pleasure of learning from a lot of folks. From David Carrington, who was the commissioner before me and the council president when I was on the council. You could consider him a mentor because of all of the things that I learned from him. So learning from them, I guess it's always being a continual learner, always being very thoughtful, but not taking anything for granted. Kind of reminded about Patrick Lencioni. He's the theme for his or the thing that they have for their company, the Table Group, is we want you to be humble, hungry, and smart. And so to be humble enough to know that you don't know it all and you can learn something from somebody, always looking for the next opportunity to not be complacent in how you work, and being smart, not necessarily that you have to be so intelligent, but that you're smart about the decisions that you make and the process that you take to get there. That's probably
how you
at
manage
the core.
Relationships too, right?
Yeah. Hey, it is always about relationships, and the minute you think it's about you instead of the relationship, maybe it's time to go find another career or go do something different.
Yeah. That Ideal Team Player, Lencioni, that book is kind of a cornerstone read here.
Yes.
I love that you brought that up.
Yeah.
Do you have any other books or podcasts or blogs that you recommend to contemporaries or budding leaders? Anything else that comes to mind?
Oh my goodness. Be sure you got something to write it, because I got a list, but I'll keep it very short. The one. If I had to recommend one book, I'm going to give you a couple because I think there's value in each one of these. The Speed of Trust by Stephen Covey.
Oh yeah,
is at the core of everything that I do. It absolutely changed my life. Going back to David Carrington, that was the book when I first started on the council in 2008. He said, "Have you read this book?" I said, "No, sir, I hadn't." Read it, completely changed how I operate and how I do not only business, politics, but also my family and family life.
Distill down for the listeners the book, just so they understand that. It is a great book.
So the official title of the book is The Speed of Trust, the One Thing That Changes Everything. And it basically talks about how the speed of business gets done. If you can trust somebody, you have inherent trust. Like I trust, my wife that, she's not going to cheat on me because we have a commitment to each other, inherent trust. But there's also trust in competency. Jim, I may really like you, but I'm not going to ask you to do a root canal on me.
Right.
Right. There's that, having that capacity and that competency to do those things. So going over those type of things to better understand, the speed at which we can do business together, the speed at which I can trust you, is how much quicker we can get business done, and I don't have to go back and check on, well, did they do this? Did they do that? It's automatic. If I ask them to do it, I know it's going to be done, and it's going to be done appropriately in a timely manner.
I remember he talked about the need to extend default. Your default would be to extend trust, and then to a point, and then you have to calibrate back. But how that speeds, I would imagine that's a tough thing to do in the political world. From the outside, it would seem that there are a lot of people that are trying to protect their turf. It's very much about their agenda. Maybe I'm wrong. Correct me if I am. But I'd be curious what your experience would be to come to that environment. And you're not officially, you're not an elected official, but your role is a kind of a political role even now. You're coming into that environment with that mindset of extending trust, the value of a trusting relationship. How has that worked out in that environment? What have been the challenges, and has that worked out for you?
Well, you always start off. You want to start off on the right foot, and so I always extended the trust and tried to show that I was trustworthy, transparent in conversation and what we were doing. And there's always some things that in economic development you sign NDAs, so there are things that you can't say, and people think you're withholding, but legally, I mean, you can't. So sure. It is to the point where you try to do the best you can. You try to be as transparent as you can, but the saying is the wheels of government move slowly, and there's a reason for that. That there has to be checks and balances all along the way because there is lack of trust. In Jefferson County alone, with the bankruptcy and I forget, it was 6 commissioners that had actually gone to jail. And so there's a lack of trust. There's a lack of trust with elected officials, period, these days, locally, federally. And so those communities that do well have probably a much higher level of trust in the speed at which they get things done.
Yeah, his thesis is when trust goes up, speed goes up, and costs go down. And when trust goes down, costs go up and speed goes down. And you wonder why we're struggling with the budget deficit we have, in the government. Well, there's your answer. Yep, exactly. There is it's a trust desert in a lot of ways, So I'm glad you're in there as an evangelist for that mindset. That's beautiful. Yeah. All right, what's another one? You said you had a couple.
Oh gosh, yeah. So anything Patrick Lencioni, whether it's the 5 dysfunctions of a team, Getting Naked, which talks about really being humble and being vulnerable. The ideal team leader is great. The Advantage. I mean, everything that he does, and so also his podcast, At the Table, is really, really good. Dealing with sometimes just pearls of wisdom, dealing with culture and creating healthy organizations is really at the core of what he's doing. As a leader and the CEO here, I've taken to Jocko Willink has the extreme ownership. It's you may have failed, but your failure is because I wasn't as clear as I should have been, and so I need to provide more clarity so you can be better. And if I provide that clarity and you can't be better, then we need to look at doing something different. So Jocko's great.
He's the man.
He is.
He's the man.
His podcasts are a little bit too long. 4 hours is a little bit much, but that guy can talk. And then the last one, Adam Grant he wrote a book, Think Again. And that one is especially good because the one big takeaway is being humble enough to know that you're wrong and you're not always right, and so being willing to consider what you might want to do differently. He brings up the guy that started BlackBerry and how he's like, nobody's going to go to these phones that don't have keypads to where they want that tactile, and it's like, no, absolutely, it totally went away, and you don't hear about BlackBerry at all anymore, really. No. So, and they were the top of the game. They were on top of everything. So, if he had actually thought again, he still may be on top. If he had only considered something as small as maybe I'd consider just a non-keyboard input, and what would that look like?
Yeah, he certainly had a jump on things. Mm-hmm. They were out ahead. Yeah, interesting. Okay, that's one I hadn't heard of, that book. So since '97, you've run your own company, Background IQ. and you're still doing that. Is that your side hustle then? I mean, you're doing a lot, man.
I have some really good people over there that I guess my county commission time, I spent more time at the commission than I did the business. So I have good people there that run everything, and my wife is very, very helpful. And I check QuickBooks on the weekends, so I don't have a regular touch on it. But it's something that I was running and was owned for a number of years. So it's always the retirement, always working towards the exit, right? So at some point, or maybe something that I hand off to my kids when it's time for me to move on.
Yeah. Just real quick, give you a chance to plug it. So what do you guys do?
So Background IQ does employment screening, drug tests, background checks, E-Verify, all of those things to help employers make better decisions about who they're hiring. We always talk about turnaround time is important when somebody needs to get somebody to work. I mean, you guys know that very well. If you need to get somebody to work, it needs to be to where you can get the information back quick as possible, so you can decide if they're worth hiring or not. It's getting somebody to get them to work, just like a project, and it's speed to market. What's the speed of getting that person to work, or speed to market for an economic development project? It's always very, very important. So we try to help with that.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, how can folks get in touch with you? We'll put these in the show notes, but you at the Birmingham Business Alliance, and then your business. What's the best way to connect there?
LinkedIn's always great. We'll go to our website at the Birmingham Business Alliance. It's birminghambusinessalliance.com. I really want to work on that domain name. It is a really long one. We want to get something a little bit shorter. And then backgroundiq.com is the website over there, and fill out the contact form, and one of the team members over there would reach out. But LinkedIn's always a great way to kind of keep track of things. Following on LinkedIn, following the Birmingham Business Alliance LinkedIn page, or signing up for our newsletter, know better what's going on. Announcements and things that we're doing, groundbreakings, like on Monday we'll help support the groundbreaking for the amphitheater here downtown Birmingham, but also coming up in a couple weeks we're going to do the groundbreaking for Coca-Cola United's brand new facility out there off of 2059 in Birmingham as well. So great projects, good announcements, adding to the quality of life and quality of place that we covet here in the Birmingham region for sure.
Well, thank you for what you do for our community, and we're certainly happy to be aligned with you. That's it, folks. I'm going to let you go. Until next time, keep it real. Thank you for listening. This podcast was powered by Owning, a family of staffing companies providing real staffing solutions to manufacturing, logistics, and food processing companies across the United States of America. To get in touch or learn more about partnering with an Owning Group company, visit us at www.owninggroup.com. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time.